lesson is lesson 4-5, which is the distributive property. Now, you are doing multiply using the distributive property on your IXL. What did you notice about that? When you were doing your IXL, what did you notice you were actually doing? So on the warm-up, okay, let's say we're doing 25 plus 45. You were multiplying 5 times 5, right? And for 45, you were multiplying 5 times 9. So this was 25, and this was 45, and then you added those together to get 70. Is everybody with me? Yeah. So we were multiplying the same number. So with the distributive property, please make sure you write down this sentence. To multiply a sum by a number, you're going to multiply each term inside the parentheses by the number outside the parentheses. Please make sure you write that down. So here we're going to multiply 3 times 85. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to split up that 85 into 80 plus 5. Okay? And then we're going to use the distributive property. So it says we're going to take the number on the outside. The number on the outside here is 3. And we're going to take that and we're going to multiply it times everything inside the parentheses. So here we have 3 times 80, and 3 times 80, we're going to write down, like down here, I'm going to write down here, 3 times 80, and then we're going to multiply 3 times 5. So plus 3 times 5. Okay? So now, what is 3 times 80? 240. That's 240. Plus 3 times 5 is 15. And then we can add those together to get 255. Is everybody clear? Now this part right here, this is the distributive property. That is the distributive property. And it also works with variables. You guys, this is the general term. This is like the formula for the distributive property. If you have the A on the outside, you're going to multiply that times the B. A times B is AB. Then you're going to multiply the A times the C. A times C is AC. And then you're going to add those together. Is everybody clear? All right. Now, the next thing I want to talk to you about, and we're going to do these with variables, but before I do that, I want you to write this sentence down. The operation is also the sign of the number that follows. Okay? Now, when we're talking about that, the operation we're talking about is the plus or the minus, the addition or the subtraction. And the sign of the number, that's going to be the positive or the negative. So here we have 2 times quantity x plus 4. So we're going to take that 2, we're using our distributive property, we're going to take that 2 and we're going to multiply it times everything inside the parentheses. Now, pay attention to the board, you guys. Look at the board and listen to what I'm saying. I have 2 times x. 2 times x is 2x. 2x. Now, this is the part I need you to pay attention to. 2 times positive 4 is what? 8. What kind of 8? Positive 8. Now look at how I write it. Positive 8. Did everybody see that? So the operation is also the sign of the number that follows. When I write positive 8, that positive becomes my addition. Is everybody clear? So now if I look at this one over here, remember, the operation is also the sign of the number that follows. So we're going to take that 4 and we're going to distribute it throughout the parentheses. So that 4 gets multiplied. So we're going to multiply 4 times n. What's 4 times n?
4n.
4n. And then we're going to multiply 4 times, what kind of 8? Right. We're going to multiply 4 times negative 8. So 4 times negative 8 is, now look at how I write it, negative 32. Is everybody clear with that? So the operation is also the sign of the number that follows. So for example 1, we're going to use the distributive property. Both of these are adding, okay? So we want to expand 8 times the quantity x plus 3. 8 times the quantity x plus 3. So here we're going to take that 8 and we're going to multiply that throughout the parentheses. Now, the work that I'm asking you to show is writing the arrows. We have 8 times x, that's 8x. And then here we're multiplying 8 times positive 3. 8 times positive 3 is, what kind of 24?
Positive.
So that's going to be a positive 24. And that is it. Let's take a look at the next one. So here we're distributing the 5 throughout the parentheses. So the 5 gets multiplied times everything inside the parentheses. Okay? So we have 5 times 9 is 45. Very good. And then, let me highlight it, we have 5 times positive 1x. What's 5 times positive x? That's going to, what kind of 5x? Positive. So that's going to be a positive 5x. And that's all there is to it. All right, so example 2 is the distributive property with fractions. And it's the same thing, okay? We're just going to split up, just like we did with the 85, where how we split it up into 80 plus 5, we're going to split up the fraction into the whole number and the fractional part, okay? So here we have 8 times 3.5. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to separate the fraction. Please make sure you write down the little hints over here on the side, okay, in your notes. So we're going to separate the fraction. So we have 8 times, and when we separate that fraction, it's going to be 3 plus 1/2. 3 plus 1/2. And now we can use the distributive property. So we're going to take that 8, and we're going to send that through the parentheses, 8 times 3, and 8 times positive 1/2. Does everybody see that? So, 8 times 3 is 24. And 8 times a positive 1/2 is, what kind of 4? So this is going to be positive 4. And then we can simplify to get 28. So here we want to find 12 times 2 1/4. What do you want to split the fraction up into? 2 plus 1/4. Very good. Okay, so let's rewrite. We've got 12 times the quantity 2 plus 1/4. All right, so now we can use our distributive property, okay? So the 12 is the number on the outside. That gets multiplied times everything on the inside. So we're going to multiply 12 times 2. And we're going to multiply 12 times, what kind of 1/4? Positive 1/4. Okay? So 12 times 2 is 24. 12 times a positive 1/4 is, so positive 3. And now we simplify to 27. So for letter C, we have 9 times 4 and 1/3. What are we going to split the 4 and 1/3 into? 9 times what? 4 plus 1/3. Very good. So now we have the 9, and we're going to distribute that throughout the parentheses. So we're multiplying 9 times 4, which is 36, and we're multiplying 9 times a positive 1/3, which is positive 3. So that's going to give us 39. So now, example 3 is use the greatest common factor to factor numerical expressions. We are going now in the reverse of the distributive property. Okay? Now, with the distributive property, when we were doing the distributive property, what were we doing when we're distributing in? We were multiplying, right? What's the opposite of multiplication? Division. So when we are factoring, we are dividing. Okay. Factoring means to divide out the GCF. So here, divide out the GCF. So here we want to use the greatest common factor to factor 45 plus 72. Okay? Now, what is the greatest common factor of 45 and 72? So, we're going to divide out the GCF. So, we're going to divide 9 and 9 here. Now, the only reason I put it below there is because I want you to know what we're doing, okay? So now we're going to write each term as a product of the greatest common factor and another factor. So 9 times what equals 45? 9 times 5. See how we got that 5? You just divided. Does everybody see that? And then plus 9 times what equals 72? 8. So again, we see 72 divided by 9. That's how we got the 8. Is everybody clear with that? Now, that 9 is the greatest common factor. We are going to put that on the outside of the parentheses. That goes outside of the parentheses. Okay? So the 9, again, we're going to put it on the outside, and we're going to rewrite the expression as a product of two terms. So we're going to put the 9 on the outside, and now what's left, everybody look at the board, what's left gets put inside the parentheses. What's left gets put inside the parentheses. So we're going to have 5 plus 8. And there is your factored form. So here let's factor 80 plus 56. Okay? What is the greatest common factor of 80 and 56? 8. Very good. So we're going to divide out 8. So the first thing we want to do is to write each term as a product of the greatest common factor, 8, and another number. Okay? So we have 8 times what? 8 times 10. Very good. Plus 8 times what? for 56? 7. Very good. Now, that 8 gets pulled out, okay? That 8 gets pulled out to the front of the parentheses, 8. And then, whatever is left gets written inside the parentheses. So here, we have 10 plus 7. And that is the end of the problem. You do not simplify that any further. So here is the factored form. We have 7 times the quantity, 2 plus 4. Very good. So we're factoring out the GCF, 7. That goes on the outside of the parentheses, and then what's left stays inside the parentheses. Very good. So now we can use the greatest common factor to factor algebraic expressions. And we use the same method. Okay? Make sure you write your heading. All right, so here we want to use the greatest common factor to factor 6x plus 15. Okay? So we've got 6x plus 15. Now, we want to know what the greatest common factor is. Now, right now, you guys, you're only going to have a variable on one of your terms. When you progress to the next level and the next level and the next level, you're going to have possibly 2 or 3 different variables in different terms. So you need to know how to do the very basic right now, okay? So, first thing you want to ask yourself, and you guys, because you only have a variable in one term, you only have to look at the numbers, okay? So, what is the greatest common factor of 6 and 15? 3. Very good. 6 and 3 is 15. So that means 6 and 15, the GCF is 3. So that means we want to divide 3 out of both terms, okay? So now we rewrite. So we've got 3 times what is equal to 6x. 2x. Don't forget that x. Plus 3 times what equals 15? 5. Very good. So now that 3 is going to come outside of the parentheses. It's going to come outside the parentheses. And what's left stays inside the parentheses. Is everybody with me? All right. So when we rewrite, we've got the 3 on the outside. And that's going to be times the quantity 2x plus 5. So we want to factor 36x plus 30. What is the GCF? 6. Awesome. So we're going to divide by 6 in each term. Okay? We're going to rewrite. 6 times what equals 36x? 6 times 6x. Don't forget the variable, people. Plus 6 times what equals 30? 6 times 5. Beautiful. And now we're going to divide out. We're going to put that 6 on the outside of the parentheses. Okay? So the 6 goes on the outside of the parentheses. And what's left stays inside the parentheses. Okay? So that's going to give us 6x plus 5. And there is the end of it. So with 16 plus 4x, what is the GCF? 4. Very good. So we're going to divide by 4. And we'll rewrite. So 4 times what equals 16? 4 times 4 equals 16. Plus, over here, 4 times what equals 4x? 1x. Do I have to put the 1 in front? Nope, don't have to. So 4 times x. Because 1 times x is x. You see that? If it was 2 times x, then we would have to put the 2x. But it's not. So now we want to take the 4 and put that on the outside of the parentheses. Okay? And what's left stays inside the parentheses. So here we've got 4 times the quantity, 4 plus x.